It seems like every few months, we get another episode of America's favorite reality show, Who Can and Cannot Visit. And folks, the latest season just dropped a major plot twist. On June 14th, 2025, a memo leaked from the US State Department, and it's a big one. The United States is considering expanding its travel ban to include 36 more countries, and guess what? A whopping 25 of them are in Africa. This isn't just a small update, it's a massive shift in policy that has sent shockwaves across the continent, from the bustling markets of Lagos to the vibrant streets of Accra. This new list is long and includes some of America's key partners. So, which countries are now on this exclusive "you can't sit with us" list? We're talking about major nations like Nigeria, Ethiopia and Ghana. But it doesn't stop there. The list also includes Angola, Cameroon, Senegal, Egypt and many others. It's like someone took a map of Africa, closed their eyes, and just started pointing. This move comes right after a different ban was put in place on June 9th, which already restricted travel from several other African nations including Chad, Somalia and Libya. It feels like the US is slowly but surely building a wall, not with bricks, but with paperwork and policies. The news broke thanks to a leaked document, which is how we get all the juicy government secrets these days. Signed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the memo lays out a plan that could dramatically change how millions of people interact with the United States. Before this leak, many of these countries enjoyed relatively stable diplomatic relationships with the US. Now they find themselves in a state of uncertainty, wondering if their students, business people and families will be able to travel to America. The administration hasn't made a final decision yet, but the memo itself is a clear signal of intent. This isn't just a random administrative decision, it's part of a much bigger picture. The current administration has made it very clear that it wants to tighten immigration controls. This potential ban is another piece of that puzzle, fitting right in with previous executive orders, aimed at restricting entry and increasing deportations. For countries like Nigeria, which has one of the largest African diasporas in the US, this news is particularly alarming. It raises a lot of questions about fairness, diplomacy, and what it truly means to be an ally of the United States in 2025. It's a complicated situation and everyone is waiting to see what happens next. Now you might be asking, why is this happening? What's the official reason? Well, according to the US government, this isn't about targeting Africa. No, they say it's all about security. The main arguments revolve around a few key issues. First, there's the problem of visa overstays. That's when someone comes to the US on a temporary visa for tourism or study, and then decides to, let's just say, extend their vacation indefinitely without telling anyone. The government claims that the 25 countries on the list have high rates of people doing this, and they want to put a stop to it. It's like inviting a friend over for dinner, and they just never leave. The second reason is all about information. The US says it needs better cooperation from other countries when it comes to sharing data. This includes things like security vetting and background checks. The government wants to be sure that every person entering the country has been properly screened in their home nation. If a country's security systems aren't up to snuff, or if they don't share information effectively, the US sees that as a potential risk. They want to know who is coming in, and they want to be absolutely sure those people don't pose a threat to national security. It's like a bouncer at a club wanting to see everyone's ID. Another major point is the quality of identity documents. The US is concerned that some countries issue passports and national ID cards that are easy to forge or tamper with. If you can't trust someone's passport, how can you trust who they say they are? The administration argues that reliable identity documents are the foundation of a secure immigration system. They want countries to upgrade their technology and processes to ensure that their documents are secure and trustworthy. Think of it as switching from a handwritten note to a high-tech encrypted email. The US wants the upgrade, and they want it now. To make sure these countries get the message, the US has given them a deadline. The affected nations have 60 days to show that they are taking these concerns seriously and are working to fix the problems. They were even required to submit an initial action plan just a few days after the memo was dated. This isn't a gentle suggestion, it's a firm demand. The message from Washington is clear. Either you meet our security standards or your citizens will find it much harder to get a visa. It's a high-stakes negotiation where the ability of millions to travel hangs in the balance. So, we've talked about governments and policies, But what does this travel ban actually mean for the people living in these 25 countries? For millions, it means their lives could be turned upside down. Imagine you're a student from Ghana who just got accepted into your dream university in California. You've spent years working for this, and your family has saved up for your tuition. Now suddenly you might not be able to get a student visa. Your dream, which was so close, is now threatened by a policy made thousands of miles away. This ban isn't just an abstract concept. It has real, immediate consequences for people's futures. The restrictions could vary. It might not be a full-on, nobody-gets-in kind of ban. The memo suggests it could range from tougher visa requirements to outright bans on certain types of travel. For example, tourist visas might be suspended, but business or student visas could still be available, just with a lot more scrutiny. This creates a cloud of uncertainty for anyone planning a trip to the US. Families planning to visit relatives, entrepreneurs hoping to attend a conference in Silicon Valley, or artists invited to perform in New York. All of them now have to put their plans on hold, waiting to see how this will play out. Think about the economic impact as well. Many of these African nations have strong business ties with the US. Nigerian entrepreneurs, for instance, are a driving force in many sectors, and travel is essential for trade and investment. If business leaders can't travel to the US to meet with partners or secure funding, it could stifle economic growth on both sides. It also affects the US, which benefits from the skills, talents, and investments brought by people from these countries. Limiting travel is like blocking a two-way street. The traffic gets stuck in both directions and everyone suffers from the gridlock. And let's not forget the emotional toll. For the African diaspora living in the US, this news is heartbreaking. It could mean being separated from parents, siblings, and loved ones. A family wedding, a graduation, or even a funeral might become impossible to attend. This policy creates invisible walls that divide families and communities. People who have built their lives in America, contributing to its culture and economy, now face the painful reality that their loved ones might not be able to visit them. It's a heavy burden to carry, and it adds another layer of stress to the immigrant experience. As with any major political decision, there are two very different ways of looking at this travel ban. On one side, you have the US government, which frames this as a necessary step to protect its citizens. From their perspective, national security is the top priority, and they believe they have a responsibility to control who crosses their borders. They argue that if other countries don't meet their security standards, then restricting travel is a logical and defensive measure. It's not personal, they might say, it's just policy. Their job is to protect America, and they believe this ban is a tool to do just that. The argument from the White House and the State Department is that this is a conditional, not a permanent measure. They emphasize the 60-day deadline, presenting it as an opportunity for the affected countries to improve their systems. In their view, this isn't a punishment, but an incentive. They are essentially saying, we want to work with you, but you need to step up your game. They would point to the identified issues, visa overstays, poor information sharing, and weak documents, as concrete problems that need to be solved. For them, this is about setting a global standard for security cooperation, and everyone needs to meet it. On the other side of the debate, you have a chorus of critics who call the ban discriminatory, unfair, and counterproductive. Many African governments, including those of Nigeria and Ghana, have previously spoken out against such policies. They see it as a collective punishment that unfairly targets the entire continent. Critics argue that lumping 25 diverse nations together ignores the specific progress many of them have made. They also point out that many of these countries are key allies in the global fight against terrorism, and alienating them could harm, not help, US security interests in the long run. Human rights organizations and civil liberties groups also argue that the ban is a thinly veiled attempt to advance an anti-immigrant agenda. They believe that focusing so heavily on African nations is a form of discrimination. The African Union is expected to issue a strong response, likely condemning the move as harmful to diplomatic relations. The core of their argument is that you can't achieve security by building walls and shutting people out. True security, they say, comes from building bridges, fostering cooperation, and engaging with the world, not isolating yourself from it. The world now watches to see which of these two philosophies will prevail.